What's up everybody, Nate here, and since it's the beginning of August, I wanted to kind of jump on here really quickly and talk about the most important business and financial days that you need to mark and pay attention to for August 2022. August is going to be a very interesting month in the business and financial world because technically right now we are in a recession in the United States, so you need to pay attention to your money more than ever. All of the earnings reports and reports from the Federal Reserve and government that come out this month are going to basically paint the picture of whether we actually are in a recession and what exactly is going to come next for the future of our economy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into things. The first day that you need to pay attention to in August of 2022 is August 5th. This is going to be jobs data, more importantly, the unemployment report. Since we are in a technical recession, jobs are going to be very important for not only the Federal Reserve, but the future of our economy. The jobs report basically shows how many businesses are retaining their employees, and if businesses are able to retain their employees right now, then that means that we are not really in a recession. People are still able to buy things, which means businesses are still getting money and they can continue to hire people and keep the people that they have. So this report is going to go over everything from unemployment numbers. Unemployment for July 2022 was 3.6%. It hasn't really moved since April of this year, and this new report will show us if it's going up, going down, or staying exactly the same. And it'll also show us how many more layoffs we have in the United States, and that is something that is starting to creep up bit by bit all throughout the country. More and more businesses are starting to lay people off as we continue to have more economic struggles. So August 5th, pay attention to the jobs report. Next up, the inflation numbers on August 10th. The next consumer price index or CPI report is coming out on this date. In July 2022, inflation reached a well over 40-year high of 9.1%. A lot of experts and investors are saying though that this new CPI report is going to show slightly lower inflation in the United States. Now, the biggest reason for this is because energy prices actually went down for the entire month. Gas prices have gone down by around 30 or 40%, and with energy costs starting to follow suit, that means that the consumer price index is going to show some cooling off with inflation. Energy prices comprise around 30% of the consumer price index, so with prices coming down in that sector, you're most likely going to see inflation coming down. However, this is not the true course of inflation in the United States. There are a lot of other issues with the war between Russia and Ukraine and China lockdowns, and not only that, supply chain issues in this country alone, making inflation go back up and keeping consumers, well, unable to buy things. And that could mean that the price of everything continues to go up on the next consumer price index, which shows numbers from this August. This is important to note though, because with inflation coming down, we don't really know how the Federal Reserve is going to react to this. Are they going to continue to raise interest rates? Are they going to raise them not as aggressively or not at all during their next meeting in September? Are they going to take this as a win, saying that inflation is starting to come down and they can start stimulating the economy to get us out of a recession? Or are they going to stay the course and they're going to continue to try to bring inflation down with all of their monetary policy tools that they have? That will all show us how prices are going up in the United States on average. And like I said, things are expected to come back down, but expect them to go slightly back up in September. Now, it's important to mention too that after this week, most of the major earnings for Q2 2022 are cooling off on the New York Stock Exchange. You're not going to have a lot of huge and serious companies reporting, although I will say Disney does report on August 10th, so make sure to mark your calendars for that one. That's important too because now we can kind of take a look at what all of these companies have already said for their earnings reports and really kind of show if we're going to be in a recession based on the number of layoffs and the revenue from a lot of these companies that have already reported. We'll have to wait for a lot of the other companies to report in September of this year. Going towards the end of the month on August 25th, we have the second GDP estimate. Now, in July 2022, we had the first estimate of our Q2 GDP, and it showed that GDP was actually shrinking. This was the second straight quarter of economic shrinkage that we had in the United States, which means we are in a technical recession. The National Bureau of Economic Research has to officially declare this, and they most likely won't do that until September or October of this year. But this is the second estimate, which means numbers are going to get revised revised upward or downward, or they're going to stay exactly the same. Most likely they're going to be revised even further downward, although that is just an estimate. Like I said, we won't have the official numbers until September of 2022, but this gets us a little bit closer to understanding if we're in an actual recession, and it's going to dictate what the Federal Reserve does with their stimulus and monetary policy. And the last date that you need to pay attention to in August of 2022 is August 31st. This is the technical end of the student loan pause by President Joe Biden. He extended it back in March through August 31st, and now it looks like it's coming to an end. Right now, we don't officially know what President Joe Biden and the federal government is going to do with student loans. There has been a lot of talk that Biden might start forgiving $50,000 in federal student loan debt, or he might just forgive $10,000, or maybe nothing at all and continue to just extend it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see President Joe Biden actually extend this, but you're going to want to pay attention to this because most Americans have student loan debt, and if they have to start paying it off, that is going to hurt our economy even more because they're not going to be able to pay for all of the same goods and services with prices going up, and a lot of those millennials and other members of generations buying homes and buying cars, they have a lot of payments that they didn't have before. Now they're also going to have to add onto those student loan payments, something they really haven't officially had to pay since the pandemic started all the way back in March of 2020. And we're talking some serious debt here. This trillions of dollars in student loan debt is all of a sudden going to become due, and Americans are going to have to go back to paying that debt. Now, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden actually pushes this off until further into 2023, but as of right now, this deadline is approaching, and that could mean some serious payments for Americans. And I mentioned it a little bit before, but the Federal Reserve does not have a meeting this month. Their next FOMC meeting is going to come in September of 2022. Expect sometime in August or early September, though, for them to release their minutes. This is basically a report that you can read in a few minutes, basically giving you the summary on all of the things that happened in the background of their last FOMC decision. This gives us a little bit more insight into what they're going to do in the future, and with the stock market continuing to reel from supply chain issues and inflation and all of these Federal Reserve interest rate hikes, businesses and investors are constantly staying up on what the Federal Reserve is doing, because with their interest rates going way up and them being aggressive with inflation, that pretty much affects everything in our economy. It's going to affect the housing market because people need to get mortgages, and with mortgage interest rates going way up, they could continue to do that into September of 2022, but they're going to be pretty much the same for the next month, and that could mean that the housing market has one big final push for the entire month of August. Same with the auto market and credit cards. Americans are going to basically go out and do whatever they can to spend or try to pay these down as quickly as possible because interest rates could be going back up in September. Not only that, but keep an eye on the Federal Reserve of Atlanta and their GDP tracker. They give a revised estimate of what they think GDP is going to look like every single month. That's going to help us understand what they're going to do with their policy, and of course, if we're actually in a recession, and how consumer trends are going to look throughout the rest of this year. And the Federal Reserve governors are going to be active. There's a lot of other meetings going on this month and into early September, so keep an eye on what they say and what their attitude is toward our economy and inflation. Now, keeping track of all of these dates is very important for your money because as markets go up and down, well, your investments are going to follow suit. And if you're in the market for a new home, then interest rates are going to be something that you pay very close attention to. And since consumers drive around 70% of our GDP economic growth, we want to know exactly which direction consumers are going in, whether they're spending a lot or not spending at all. And all of that information is going to be revealed this month. But now I want to hear from you on this issue. Are there any other major dates that I missed in this video? What do you think about all the dates that I talked about? Are you looking forward to something in particular? And do you think this is going to be a major month for our economy in 2022? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below before you go. But that is it for today's business and financial news breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to stay up to date with all the top business and financial news from around the country, our team puts together a free daily newsletter, and you can subscribe to it by clicking the link in this corner right here. And if you want to stay up to date with me and everything else happening in the business and financial world, I'm putting out updates 7 days a week over here on this channel, and I've actually got another one ready for you right here, so be sure to check that out before you go. That is it from me, everybody. Be kind out there, and I'll see you all in the next one.